Hello, everyone. I'm Captain Logan, and it's time for another How I Felt About. I am flying solo tonight to talk about a thing that nobody asked for. This is not by popular demand or anything, but I wasn't able to get a rewind prepared for today. I've got a lot going on for Bat March this week, and I wanted to do something Batman related. And then it occurred to me, I thought about doing some kind of discussion topic, and then it occurred to me, oh yeah, this came out last week, and I wasn't sure if I was going to bother with it. It looked boring and kind of awful, and I haven't been keeping up with any CW superhero stuff for a long time, but it is Bat March. It happened to come out at the same time as we're doing Bat March, and I went, what the hey, it's 45 minutes, I'll take a look at it. People like it when I'm a masochist and when I torture myself, so I might as well take a look at this for your amusement, for your enjoyment. This is a show that we don't need, and I don't know that anybody really deserves. But I have to say that right out the gate, I'll make this kind of a standard sign flip review, and then I can get into some spoilers afterwards. And weirdly, this is going to be kind of a difficult thing to not spoil, but I also think this is one of those things that while the majority of you guys won't have bothered watching this yet, you probably won't care if I tell you things about it, because you probably don't have any intention of ever looking at it. And obviously, I want to play fair with even a thing like this and take it on its own terms as much as I can and give it its fair shake. So I'm not right out the gate going, oh man, I hope this is awful, or I hope this is stupid bad, but I kind of expected it to be kind of funny bad, like Legends and like especially Batwoman have been, and right out the gate, I will report it's not entirely funny bad in the way I thought it might be. Like, some of you guys might be disappointed that I'm not going to be able to rake it over the coals in the same way that I expected maybe I would. That is not a ringing endorsement or anything, and I'll tell you how I feel about it, but it's not like Batwoman where right away I'm rolling my eyes at everything and just like shocked and dismayed by how insanely nuts like logical choices are, and like breaking laws of physics and stuff. This is a thing that right away takes itself a great deal more seriously than Batwoman does, even though it's still very, very CW. But I am perplexed and bewildered by this. Not in as much by, again, like story choices as I thought I might be, although certainly by some of the like character selections and just the status quo we have at the beginning of this as a Batman thing, which I'll get into, but sort of just the big questions that I had when this was announced and that some folks were alluding to in the live comments before I started broadcasting. Why does this exist? It's not exactly what I thought it would be, but it still watches oddly obligatory, if that's even the right word. It shouldn't be obligatory. It shouldn't feel like a thing that the CW feels obligated to put out, because the last couple of TV Batman things have not gone that well for the CW or anybody else. This is now, count them, the 5th live-action Batman show without Batman if you count Gotham, and I absolutely do. Yes, it's got a young Bruce Wayne. Yes, he puts the Batsuit on at the end, but it's Jim Gordon's show for the most part, and he is, and you've got all these villains becoming villains throughout the thing before he finally puts on the Batsuit. It's a Batman show without Batman, even a lot more so than Smallville turned into a Superman show without Superman, because eventually he kind of is Superman. He's just not wearing the costume. So that's a totally different sort of situation. I don't know why this was greenlit. I don't know who this is for, and I don't understand how it's coming out in 2023 feeling aimed at a teenage audience. It doesn't feel like a thing that modern teenagers would care about and look at whatsoever. And I say this a lot about a lot of modern superhero movies. It feels like a thing that was made 12, 15 years ago and put in a drawer. Except you'd need a time machine to go to the future and see some of the source material that is informing this, because it's got a lot of characters and it's cribbing from mythology and story points that are somewhat recent, relatively recent. So it's doing a lot of Snyder stuff. In fact, most of the more recent things that it goes to are Snyder creations. It's got the Harper siblings. So, or sorry, the Rowe siblings, I guess. It's got Harper Rowe and her brother, whatever his name is, I forget. And the big overarching villain plot, some of you guys might call it Right Away. I'm not going to bring up what that is until I get to spoilers and stuff, just in case anyone cares to not know. But most of you guys in the know will already know what I'm talking about. Anyway, but yeah, it feels like a thing that would have been made circa, I don't know, 2008, 2010, maybe a little even a little before that. Like, it feels really pre-Arrowverse. It's almost not touched by that at all. It's a little refreshing that it's not set in that same continuity at all, which is even a thing that at first Superman and Lois didn't have going for it, because it was the same actors playing those characters and seemed ostensibly to be set in the same universe. Eventually, we backtracked it and retconned it and said that it's not. But that, I guess it was kind of nice. I don't want to just sit here and review what I've seen of that show, and I haven't even watched season 2 yet. And by the way, I still like what I've seen of that show, for the most part, but right away there was maybe a little bit of baggage there where I had kind of expectations. It maybe helped that my expectations were so low with that show, where I'm like, well, it's this Lois Lane, and she was like real kind of sanctimonious and obnoxious in the couple appearances that she had, and I like that Superman actor, but I don't know what he's going to be like, in this continuity. And then super pleasant surprise where it didn't even feel like a CW show, and for all intents and purposes, it's kind of not. It seemed like HBO Max was fitting the bill for that show, and then airing it on CW, but it seemed like it was made almost to be a binge series to be watched later. This does not have that. This is straight up a CW show, but doesn't have the baggage of, or at least it sure watches like that. Tonally, if nothing else. Like, it's very much kind of a teen angsty sort of drama, and if you are immediately repelled by that kind of thing, and if you don't like Smallville, this is not for you. You're not going to like the show, more than likely. But it doesn't have the baggage of the CW stuff, even though Berlanti's name is on it, and dare I say, it does watch a little smarter than the more recent things I've seen of those shows. Not that I have kept up, but and not that the bar is very high at all. And it may be that my standards are a little bit low at the moment, because a couple of days ago I just got done with another 24-hour stream watching Smallville. And so I'm kind of in the headspace for that sort of thing. But you know what I appreciated? It's not... it doesn't watch pandery. It doesn't watch like it's got like thinly veiled, or not even thinly veiled, just in your face like political motivations, or like it's trying to pander to people with certain politics and trying to oppress us with how with how progressive it is, or any of that. And it doesn't have a ton of... I mean, I could see some people reading a little bit of that into it, but relatively, so far anyway, it kind of seems like just a show, and that was refreshing. And it also isn't inundated with pop culture references from 6 seconds ago, and with a lot of modern, like a Twitter slang and references and meme stuff and that kind of thing, which I became very accustomed to with CW, with shows like Supergirl and, again, Legends of Tomorrow and Flash, all those sorts of things. I'm going to use the word relatively a lot. This is a lot like comparing a more sophisticated Power Rangers show to the rest of Power Rangers. And I don't even like using the word sophisticated. Don't get me wrong. This isn't that. And it's definitely got some stupid. But when you compare it to Batwoman, which is the obvious comparison, because it's insane that they canceled a Batman show without Batman that only ran 3 seasons, and on the CW, you don't have to get any ratings to keep your show on. And they replaced it with another Batman show, as far as I understand it, made by some of the same crew with that show. When that's where your standard is, you're not expecting it to be even as good as I thought this pilot was. Now, it could immediately fall apart and tank right away in the second episode. I thought the pilot for Batwoman was not good, but was still somehow a little bit better than I expected it to be. And we all saw, if we bothered looking at any more of it, how that whole insane train wreck and fiasco went. But this is a lot more sober than that. Like, this feels like a show made by the same people, but they aren't hungover. Like, that's my review. It's like if Batwoman was made by people that had not drank until 4 a.m. And threw up a lot, and it had to be like woken up with a bucket of water, and then quick go make a TV show, because that's what that show watches like. It isn't that, so that's good. And some of the things that I want to ding it for, I feel like I kind of have to hold out judgment until I see where things are going, because it is a mystery, and I don't want to give it too much credit, certainly, but there's a lot of assumptions that the show seems to be banking that you're going to make, that it seems pretty clear it's going to go against at some point, and that could make things I don't like okay, because they're not really happening. For instance, and again, minor spoilers right now, and then I can get into some more actual spoilers, especially if anybody in the comments has watched the show and wants me to talk about anything in particular. Thanks for watching live, by the way, if you're doing that. And I'll interact with you a little bit after my sign flip. Right now, I'm not looking at comments much, but I will... But I'll chat with you here in a little bit, and thanks for watching after the fact if you're doing that as well. By the way, if you're wondering why I haven't reviewed Shazam 2 yet, because that would be the obvious thing to do right now after the 24-hour Smallville stream, I haven't had a chance to go see it yet, because of course I was doing that, and I was too busy yesterday, partly recovering from that stream, and then this weekend I'm out of town, and we've got John Wick 4 coming out, so I'm not going to be able to shoot Sunday, so my hope is to do those two things together, maybe the week after, with Connor as another double feature review. So pardon the wait, not that anybody's probably chomping at the bit that hard to hear us talk about Shazam 2. It's not doing super well at the box office. I don't know how much people are really going to care. I might be talking about something related to that movie tomorrow night on the Captain Logan show, but I've not seen it, just in what's going on with box office and the culture and stuff, and how Warner Brothers is handling it. Quick tease for that. That might be part of the lead-in topic tomorrow, but I have not seen it yet, so I can't speak to it. So here's my new review. Not that I always do one every week, but so I'm doing this. Anyway, so just kind of premise spoiler, right out the gate, Batman is murdered, and there are a few things that kind of caught me off guard, because I thought I knew what the status quo was going to be for the show to some degree, and I was totally wrong about it. I thought Batman was, well, actually, I guess I had to know that he was murdered, because I knew the premise was, what am I talking about? I knew the premise was he's dead, and everybody thinks that our band of kind of thieving heroes that are... I thought most of, if not all of them, were the sons and daughters of supervillains, but it turns out that only one of them is, and even then just ostensibly. I'll get into that in a little bit. We've got Duella in this show. Not to be confused with Cruella DeVille. That's a different character. But speaking of that, I thought this was going to be like Disney Descendants, the show, and it does watch very juvenile fiction. Like, this does feel like the premise for a juvenile book series based on Batman, but without Batman, and it isn't that. It would make for probably a better one of those than a TV show, especially because, again, I don't know who this is for. Like, let me say this real quick, too. Part of the reason I did decide to go ahead and review this is it's fun to be in the camp of some of the only people in the world that have looked at something. You know, it's sort of like when you buy a figure or a statue that's like, one out of only, 1,000 or something. That's how I feel watching this show, because I know nobody's looking at this. I haven't looked at numbers yet, but it'll be interesting to see, like, by second or third episode, if this is doing any better than Batwoman, because by the end of that show, it was sitting at like 200,000 or 300,000 viewers is all it was getting on network television. Like, Batwoman wasn't doing as well as my most viewed video. That's crazy, but I do have the distinction of having put out something that did better than Batwoman. So I guess I feel good about that. I guess. I don't know why it was a Blade 2 commentary, but that's a whole other story. So Batman is murdered. I guess I knew that, but it doesn't work out the way I thought it would because, I thought that it was a band of kids that are framed that are all sons and daughters of supervillains. That is not true. It's just Duella who claims that she's the daughter of the Joker, but that is probably not true. And I think the show does a good job of making it pretty clear that she's lying and that something else is going on with her. Again, there are things related to that I think are dumb, but might end up being lies that the show is doing on purpose, so I don't know if I can complain about them yet. She has, I guess I'll just say this real quick in case I forget, she has a whole thing where she says that she was raised in Arkham Asylum, and I think that's really stupid that, like, the city would, pardon the plumbing, that the city would allow a child to be raised in Arkham, and that's where she finds out about the big bad guy plot. But if she's lying about that, then that's not a big deal. If it turns out that's actually where she was raised and it's like Bane being raised in the prison in Santa Prisca, I'm going to be like, no, that's stupid. But maybe that's not what's actually happening. And there's things about Batman's murder that I think are ridiculous and come off really dumb. But I don't know for sure if the show's playing fair with us yet, or if it will turn out that some of those details are not true. So the other big thing, so I said, I thought that all the main characters besides Batman's adopted son, who, by the way, is a made-up character for the show. So our kind of main character here is a kid named, I keep forgetting this, by the way, Turner Hayes, a real kind of generic name for our protagonist. Like I said, sorry about the plumbing. It's gone now. It's like I live in the Ninja Turtles lair sometimes. Or, you know, kind of a bat cave. But so you've got Turner Hayes, and he was adopted by Bruce Wayne, but he never told this kid that he was Batman. And I think everybody assumed that he was going to be a Robin, and I kind of thought that too, but that is not the case. So Batman had a Robin that is a teenager, and this is all stuff that's in the trailers. That's Carrie Kelly, and she is around his age and going to school where he's going to school, which is kind of convenient because they're both prep kids. I think she's going there. Maybe not. Maybe she just, I can't remember now. Maybe she just goes to the party he throws at the beginning, because it's a real typical teen drama. So within the first 5 seconds, he's got to have a big blowout party he's throwing at Wayne Manor when Bruce isn't looking. And then, of course, it turns out the reason he's not looking is because he's dead. But the other big thing that I didn't expect is that it's very present day, like Batman. And by present day, I mean not set in the future. It is, I started to say this earlier, pardon me, relatively stylized, and stylized isn't even the right word. It's not as stylized as it should be. Better than Batwoman, but it is relatively kind of out of time, like, you know, my favorite Batman things are. I mean, this isn't one of my favorite Batman things, but it is nice that it does that. We do have the kind of standard Gotham City Police Department blimp flying at the beginning, and I was like, okay, that's cool. We got a blimp. I guess that's nice. Some of the reason that this show is set in kind of a, you know, anachronistic sort of timeline where, I mean, it feels very present day. It doesn't feel like a bunch of timelines blended together, but again, it does feel at least like not in exactly the world we live in. So that's nice. I got to give it that. But I think part of that reason might be because it's directed by Danny Cannon, who is one of the main producers, if not the showrunner of this show. And Cannon has the distinction now of making the pilots of 3 of the 5 aforementioned Batman shows that don't feature Batman. Yeah. So if you're not aware of this, and I wasn't, Gotham Knights is directed by the same guy that directed the pilot for Gotham, which is crazy. And then he also directed the pilot for Pennyworth, which I guess retroactively I have heard. I've not been watched. I haven't watched that show. It's been canceled now. But retroactively, that is apparently a spin-off of Gotham, even though I've seen the first 3 episodes of that show and it can't be. But they're claiming that it's the same Alfred somehow, and also a prequel to V for Vendetta. I can't be surprised by anything anymore. Anything is possible, particularly on superhero television now. Danny Cannon, I looked this up, has the distinction, another distinction, and this is a real one, and I'm not making fun of him for this. This is actually kind of impressive, for making like very few directors have managed this. 15 different TV pilots, 12 of which have gone to series. That is impressive. You got to give him that. And Gotham is a great-looking show. Pennyworth is a great-looking show. Gotham Knights looks like the guy that made really good-looking, heightened, stylistic shows. Forget the writing, forget the acting. It looks like the guy that made those things was given enough money to go to Chick-fil-A and make a pilot. And he's doing pretty good on Chick-fil-A money, I gotta say. And it does show that you've got this guy over whoever it was that directed the Batwoman pilot. It is night and day. And not just because this doesn't have a bat cave that looks like it would fit in one of my closets. Not even just the bunker here, but like the bunker is bigger than that bat cave. Like one of my closets in my house. Sure, this Batcave is kind of CG matte painting, a lot of it, and what they actually built is probably not much bigger than the set from Batwoman, but you gotta give them that they at least elongated it in post, and it sort of looks like a Batcave, so that's nice. But anyway, I've been taking 10 minutes to get to this point. I thought this show was gonna be set in like the latter days of Batman. It looked like it was going to be sort of reverse Gotham or reverse Smallville, where instead of, where you got to come up with, for no good reason that I understand, some way to get rid of your main character so somebody else can star in it, but still have all the trappings of the thing that they usually star in. So for a long time, we did that with prequels, and now we're kind of prequeled out because we've done that with these two characters. So, well, you can't do that again. So what do? Well, you go to the future, you kill him off, and then you have the descendants of some of these characters, right? Yeah, that's not what this show is. We see Bruce Wayne's body. It looks like he's 35 years old. And he's got villains, or at least one major one, that has not become a villain yet and that he hasn't fought yet. And that kind of blew my mind. I had to really adjust to that. It's very strange. And that, I think, is weirdly the biggest misstep with this show. Like, I'm saying that the obvious thing to do is actually kind of maybe what they ought to have done. And the reason I'm saying that is because it at least gives you an excuse to kill off Batman. If you have like a decrepit 80-year-old Batman that has a hard time defending himself and he gets murdered up in his office, that I can buy a lot more than Batman at his prime dies before we meet him in Wayne Manor, which you'd think would be pretty fortified. He'd probably have a lot of security. He'd probably have a lot of like stuff built into the walls that automatically can protect him. But no, he can get killed right in the middle of his office. And the show is going to try to make a case that the outfit responsible is the only thing that possibly could do this to Batman, and I can talk about that here in a little bit when I go to full-on spoilers. But part of the problem is that it's before we even meet Batman, and part of it is that the situation itself looks really hokey. Again, unless it turns out that it's not what it looks like it is, and I'll be impressed if that turns out to be the case. But wouldn't it be actually, I'm saying this after having seen the show, more interesting if it was just post-Batman, and we make up some new characters that are kind of interesting, that are the sons and daughters of some of the Arkham inmates, but maybe not just that, maybe some other characters as well. And I mean, I can't immediately get excited about that premise, but here's the thing, and I've got to go back to Birds of Prey for a minute, because that is the obvious comparison with this story, where that show pissed off Batman fans, and the main reason people didn't watch it, even though the production value for CW was pretty okay, and the writing was better, arguably, in my opinion, most of the time, better than Smallville, fans could not get on board with that show because you wrote Batman out and you made him seem like a pansy and like he just couldn't handle living in Gotham anymore. And so he did the No Man's Land thing where he leaves, but then he never comes back. He just stays away. That it seemed pathetic to people. They didn't like that they did that to Batman. And the excuse at the time was, well, if we want to make a Batman show, we got to do it without Batman because Begins is in production and the movie side won't let us make anything. Well, fast forward to today, and I don't know if that's an excuse anymore. I don't know why the show doesn't have Batman. That's part of the problem, is when you've got Superman and Lois on, and they're able to do Superman while they're trying to do the Superman stuff in the movies. Obviously, that's been in limbo, but we're finally going to get one, and we didn't know, whether or not Cavill was going to come back before that. It didn't seem to be the movie side stopping us, is what I'm saying. There really isn't any good reason, as far as I understand it, to not just do a kind of sister show that is your CW Batman show along with your Superman show. I don't necessarily need that. I wouldn't necessarily get real excited about it because it's the CW. But, on the other hand, that network is airing a show that is leaps and bounds, better than I ever could have expected for that network, even though it's barely a CW show, it seems like. So, anyway, just everything about this is really counterintuitive. You've got, like I said, you've got Batman in his prime being killed right at the beginning of your show instead of just jumping into the future and doing sort of like a Batman Beyond kind of situation, except what if Batman Beyond was elderly Bruce Wayne gets killed and then somebody takes over in the Batsuit? Like, that's probably what this ought to have been. Instead, you've got Harvey Dent right away as one of your lead characters, and he's not Two-Face, he's not been Two-Face, and that immediately makes me go, okay, how much of Batman's rogues gallery has he fought? It's just this really weird, and we've had lots of reimagined Batman continuities at this point, both in and out of comics, that do different things at different times. But when you kill Batman off, it starts to feel lamer that certain things haven't happened yet. That, like, we're gonna watch Turner, this generic character you just made up. The actor's okay for, again, he's kind of like Power Ranger actors in the better seasons of Power Rangers. Like, he's doing an okay job for a teen drama that feels like it should be a teen book series. And I'd say that about pretty much all of this cast. Nobody, by the way, immediately irritated me. Like, I don't hate any of this cast. Not any more than, standard teen drama stuff. Like, again, I'm kind of inoculated. I've been here and done this with stuff before, but I didn't immediately hate anybody. And there were folks that I actually kind of liked okay, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit. I'm being very long-winded. My apologies. But you're really gonna have a show where Batman never fought Two-Face? Okay, but he apparently killed the Joker. I guess I'm giving you that spoiler. Okay, since I'm wanting to get into spoilers, let me go ahead and just give you a best thing, worst thing, and sign flip. Actually, real quick before I do that, I'll just break down some of these characters because, like I said, it's a little bit counterintuitive. So you've got the Harper kids. The idea is all of these kids were hired to break into Wayne Enterprises, and they were paid $100,000 to do that, and they're being framed now by whoever hired them, probably to they're being framed for Bruce Wayne's murder. That's the whole premise. And that group consists of Harper and Cullen Rowe, and then pardon me, what is her name? Duella, who is claiming to be the Joker's daughter, but is probably not the Joker's daughter. And then who else is involved in that? It's them, and then is it just those three in the first place? I thought there were a couple of other people there, and then you've got also in the show Carrie Kelly and Stephanie Brown both. And I actually, believe it or not, I actually looked at this twice just in case I missed something, and I didn't catch that was supposed to be Stephanie Brown in the first place. I think she's decently well cast. And then halfway through the episode, Turner also gets framed for being the person that hired them. So now the cops are also after him, and they get taken almost to Blackgate, and then there's a dirty cop that's hired to shoot them, and they end up escaping, and at the end, they're in like a what looks almost like a Birds of Prey kind of clock tower sort of thing. Again, kind of harkening back to Birds of Prey, and that's the area that they're going to operate out of. So worst thing I'll just start with the show is where do I even want to go? Because like there's a few things I could lob at it with that. I guess I'm just gonna say like corny dialogue and plot points that don't have any rhyme or reason. Again, some of which may later have a rhyme or reason, but I may be giving the show too much credit. I'm not sure. But there's things that I cannot reconcile. I'll go ahead and throw this out. Like, Bruce Wayne gets killed by being shot and dropped out of a, 35-story window at Wayne Enterprises. And he dies wearing a bat cowl on top of his regular work suit. Like, he's wearing a suit and tie, but he's got a bat cowl. And presumably whoever killed him put that on him so that everybody would know he was Batman. But it's dumb that everybody thinks he's Batman. Like, that's enough. That's all it takes. Like, everybody just immediately assumes that that is true. And, like, it is true, but it's very weird that no one questions it. And no one questions anything with Batman. There's no debate about whether vigilantes are a good thing or a bad thing, except when it comes to Turner. Like, Stephanie Brown says, I'm not going to just help you become some vigilante. Meanwhile, she and everyone else in Gotham love Batman, think that he is like Jesus or something. He saved this city countless times. He was so important. They have the culture of dependence. Nobody trusts the police. I don't know if the show realizes that. There are all these places where they go, who could possibly, the news and regular people, who could possibly save us now? Batman is dead. Like, well, I don't know, the police department? No, they can't help. Who could possibly solve this crime? Well, Batman's dead. He can't solve his own murder, and he was the world's greatest detective, so nobody else could possibly solve this murder. Like, if Batman's dead, there's no chance. It doesn't even matter how complex or not the murder is. Well, Batman's dead, so there's no possible chance that this can be solved. That's hilarious. But also, you just put a cowl on his head, and he's everybody believes he's Batman. No, not one person questions it. Everyone now knows that he's Batman. It is refreshing to have a CW superhero show that's not all about secrets. I will say that. We're like, right away, everybody knows everything. At least a lot of the major stuff. I mean, there are certainly going to be secrets, don't get me wrong. Again, Duella is probably not the Joker's daughter. In the comics, she is, in the at least pre-52 stuff, she is Harvey Dent's daughter and claims to be the daughter of all these different supervillains. So it is kind of a fun idea to have her in the show, I guess. Joker's daughter in New 52 is a completely other thing, and this does not seem to be looking at that, thank God, because that's one of the worst characters in the history of terrible characters. No, Avatar, I am not making stuff up. This is what happens in this show. And I'm probably taking it way too seriously, but it's not anything like as bad as I expected it to be, so I can't help it. And there are some things that, I don't know, could be interesting, but I'm not expecting them to be as we move forward, certainly. So yeah, along with all of that, I guess in more stuff, I just have to say, like, easy story logic, contrived crap, like, when... And I already threw out some, but, like, this is dumb. So, this kid who Bruce Wayne adopted, and again, I hate the idea that Bruce Wayne adopts a kid. He never figures out that Bruce Wayne is Batman. Carrie Kelly does. Carrie Kelly does exactly the same thing that every other Robin in history has ever done. Batman doesn't tell her that he's Batman, but she figures it out so she gets to be Robin. So we still have that. But Turner doesn't do that. But you know what Turner... I'm going to start calling them Turner Classic Movies. You know what Turner Classic Movies does? Turner In the same scene with Stephanie, where he says, I don't know why he never told me. He should, and like he's in denial about it. Like my dad couldn't have been Batman. Seconds after he says that, he gets all pissed off, and this is like classic CW story logic, like getting us from A to B, right? He throws a wine glass, and it breaks, and liquid goes underneath a trap door. It's a big mansion. They just happen to be in the room that has the entrance to the Batcave. And he's like, what is that? And he goes over and he figures out how to get in. And he just like pulls a lever that's on a bookshelf. And then it opens up and they go into the entrance to the Batcave. And I'm like, yep, I'm right at home. I'm watching a CW show. You also gotta love that. Do you guys remember a million years ago when I made that joke about how in Rewind, about how Batman in Batman and Robin, the movie, password protects the secret of Batman with a 3-letter password? You remember that whole thing? Batman in this has no password. If you're in the Batcave, you can use the Batcomputer, no problem. And the Batcomputer is very small and has like 3 monitors. They're, I don't know, like just little 23-inch monitors. They're probably like 30-inch, but they look smaller on television. But, you know, they're very small. And he, of course, has to pal around with a computer hacking genius. It's kind of his Felicity Smoke. But she's not obnoxious. She's kind of... She's kind of sweet and cares about him and doesn't do anything annoying. But also, it's pretty clear that they could be a love interest from the beginning, so they're not gonna like sideswipe us with that if that ends up happening. So that's a step up. She's a better Felicity. She's kind of like Felicity 2.0, like for my Star Trek fans in the audience. It's sort of like the same way that Dr. Phlox in Enterprise was what Voyager probably thought Neelix was. That's how she watches. I like her. I will give them that character so far. Best thing is probably directing and production value next to other superhero show or other CW superhero shows, I guess. Like it's just not as hard to look at and hard to watch as I thought it might be, and potentially intriguing plot points, but I don't trust them, so I can't give it that yet. I am gonna go with a really mild red so far, just to say, if I wasn't a Batman fan, I wouldn't have any reason to think to keep watching this. Like, it's all just source material I'm familiar with and being kind of curious as to what this show might do with it, where it's like, is it going to be a train wreck or could it surprise me? If I walk into this totally blind, I don't know what incentive I would have to keep looking at it. And I don't know, again, who exactly this is aimed at. If you're a big Snyder Batman fan, you're gonna hate what they're doing with Snyder stuff, probably. I don't think the people who like that source material would be real into this, but I don't think people that would be introduced to the source material through this would find it intriguing enough to keep watching it. And I also think that it is 15 years too late in that it's a CW show that is avoiding costumes like the plague. How are we back to that after seasons and seasons and seasons of CW shows with all these different costumes, some of which looked good and some of which looked really crappy and everything in between? We're back to a show that goes, well, we've got to have, it's the old formula. We've got to have a cast of characters in a superhero universe that don't dress like superheroes. Carrie Kelly shows up. We've seen her once already, and she reveals later. And by the way, just straight up tells everybody what her secret identity is. All of these thieves and potential murderers. Why does she do that? She takes her goggles off. Hi, I'm Carrie Kelly. Before that, she says, and I love, there's this big, I'm into spoilers now. Nobody cares. She goes, there's this big beat. We like move in on her on the camera. The music lays out, and she goes, I'm Robin. You know, like I'm Batman. It's like the I'm Batman moment. She's like, I'm Robin. She's not wearing a Robin costume. She's wearing like a black leotard with like some gear on it and goggles that Bruce Wayne gave her I guess as a gift to help her with her crime fighting. I don't know if they do anything special. They just look like goggles, and she seems very proud of them. And then later on, it gets even weirder because we have to have like sappy explanations or a sappy explanation for the name Robin in this. Like, you're in a established Batman universe where Batman has apparently killed the Joker, okay? And she goes, he called me his little Robin. Which is, like, if you think about it for any amount of time, a little bit creepy. Or at least it kind of comes off that way a little bit, where it's like, you know, he's palling around not just with a teenager, but a teenage girl, and he's like, you're my little Robin. I don't know. It's like, I'm glad that we didn't actually have a Batman that says that to someone in a scene. That would seem weirder. That would seem more like a creeper kind of thing. But like, that's weird. And then in the same speech, she says, like, this is a really sentimental Batman, apparently. In the same speech, she says, Turner Classic Movies, she says, Turner, Batman always, like the whole city saw him as their hero. Because remember, nobody questions Batman in this universe. The whole city saw you, and he killed the Joker. Nobody, I guess it's like 89, where like he drops the Joker from a high place and kills him, and now nobody has a problem with him. And she says, Turner, he always said that you were his hero. I'm kind of out at that moment. That's probably the moment where I'm absolutely certainly flipping my sign red, where I'm like, and I will by the way give this another episode or two probably, because I'm intrigued. Like, I shouldn't be, like, I know it's not gonna pan out, but I'm weirdly intrigued enough. It's sort of like when you're looking at comics and you go, this first issue was terrible, but, like, I'm going to give it one or two more. I'm in that place. So, very often, red is, I would never wish, not always wish on my worst enemy, but red is usually, like, I don't see the need to ever look at this again, or with a TV show to watch any more of it. This is one of those rare cases where I'm going to flip red. I may watch one more out of absolute morbid curiosity. But that is a friggin' sappy Batman. And that's where we get into really standard kind of, you know, sentimental platitudes with CW shows. There's a little bit of that with voiceover and stuff. Why do we always have to open these things with voiceovers? Turner Classic Movies has that at the beginning. Why do we have to do that? And it can't just be like catching us up to speed. We got kind of a confusing one with this, because at first they trick us into thinking that he already knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman, but the first like 20 seconds is set later, but you don't know that, and you just see him picking up like a batarang, like Batman props. And there's no reason to think that's happening later, but I guess it must be, because he doesn't know that Bruce Wayne is Batman. Anyway, what else do I want to talk about before I start looking at comments? So let me talk just real briefly about the whole mystery of who killed Batman. So Batman is killed by the Court of the Owls, and it is clear that that's what's going on from the first few minutes of the show, because we get an owl coin that is on Batman's person. There's all these mysteries surrounding Bruce Wayne, and at first I had this big why now question, and then I went, oh, it's actually kind of becoming clear why Batman got killed now. The bigger why now question is why everybody doesn't know about the Court of the Owls, because it seems like maybe too many people know about them, which is the easiest thing to screw up with Court of the Owls is, well, they need to be this big, massive secret, but we also need somebody to give exposition about them at the end of the episode. So Joker's ostensible daughter knows about them because she was raised in Arkham, and people in the halls talked about the Court of the Owls. But I guess they're all crazy people, so nobody believes them. And I guess the court can't, because if you know about, and this is true in the comics too, we're told that if you know about the court, this is all in the final scene, if you know about the court, you get, a Talon shows up and kills you right away. Okay, but you're telling me they can't get into Arkham if people in Arkham know about that, or find some way to kill people in Arkham? Okay, like maybe they don't know about it because it's Arkham, but I find that unlikely if they've got eyes and ears everywhere and they're controlling the whole city, as they do in Snyder, and as, Duella, I keep forgetting her name, says that they do. So anyway, you've got these mysteries. Like he's got the owl coin on him, so that suggests that he's figured out the court and they're steps ahead of him, and they came up with this convoluted plot to kill him in Wayne Enterprises and do it by framing not one but a whole group of kids, which seems like a really weird idea. Like, that's super contrived all by itself, right? Just to give you an ensemble cast of characters, like, isn't that a lot of potential liabilities? What if one of them gets away? Because the whole plan is frame these kids and then kill them all. Kill them. Okay, but if you're going to kill them all, why not just frame like 1 or 2 kids? Why 4 or 5? It's weird. So, here's all the weird stuff about Bruce Wayne's murder. He's got the coin, and then he's killed with probably just because it seems real provocative. He's killed with the gun that Joe Kill used to kill his parents. And I can't say it with a straight face because I don't understand how is it Duella again or is it Harper? One of them knows this. I think it is Duella. How would she know that? I watched it a second time. There's no explanation for this. So they're breaking into a safe, right? They're in Bruce Wayne's office, and they're trying to get into the safe. And then Duella walks. I'm pretty sure it's Duella that catches this. And somebody picks up the gun, and they go, "Oh man, we broke into here just for a gun? Like, why is that important? It's not just any gun. It's the gun that Joe Chill used." This is Duella's line. "It's the gun that Joe Chill used to kill Bruce Wayne's parents." And I go, how do you know that? How could you possibly know that? And so, here's how convoluted this whole thing is. And again, it could retroactively end up making sense when we learn what all the details are, but I doubt it. It's like, okay, so the Talon or whoever actually killed Bruce Wayne for the Court of the Owls breaks in, kills him with the gun, or kills him some other way and shoots him with a gun and then drops him out of the balcony because, or out of the window, because after all, forensics would be, in an autopsy, would be looking for a bullet if apparently a gun shot him. So it would have to be a gun that did it. So you're telling me that somehow you managed to use the gun. How did you even get it? Was it in the office in the first place? That Joe Chill used to kill, and use that to kill Bruce Wayne, who is Batman, doesn't see it coming, actually, like, this seems like the worst Batman ever. Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place, but I gotta say this real quick, too, because I forgot about this. We only know about 2 things this Batman ever did. Well, 3. He killed the Joker, or allegedly he killed the Joker, because you can't trust anything Duella said, and we haven't seen it yet, so who knows what actually really happened. Maybe he killed the Joker. We know that he got murdered by the Court of the Owls, unless it turns out that he didn't. More on that later. Hopefully I remember to talk about that. So we know that he was not very good at defending himself, even though he's Batman. And somehow the person that killed him managed to shoot him with that gun, with that very specific gun, put it in the safe, lock it, and get a bat cowl on his head and throw him out. That's all crazy just with a normal person, that you'd be able to go through all that trouble, get all that done. I just thought of this, there's no cameras that caught any of this, but it's Batman. It should be a lot harder to do all of this stuff to Batman. The third thing we know about Batman is that when Carrie Kelly met him, she saved his life. He almost got his ass handed to him and died, and she saves him on the street. This is a very ineffectual Batman that has created a complete culture of dependence around him. Amazing. Well done. Ineffectual, terrible Batman. It seems like he's a pretty crappy Batman. But anyway, I don't actually know if Batman is dead. And I say that because, A, I don't see how, if he really is Batman, it could be that easy. It seems really easy. And B, because I'm also not convinced that the CW can't actually put Batman on screen right now. So, as counterintuitive as this sounds, there's plenty of counterintuitive in the show already. Is it possible that there will be a big surprise ending or cliffhanger or something with the end of the season, or somewhere even in the middle? Oh, Batman's not actually dead. Somehow. Like, he faked his death, or the Court of the Owls faked his death and kidnapped him, and what we have is not his real body, or something. I mean, he was buried. We buried somebody. But everything about that, this is where I don't know how to respond, because I don't know where I stand with the show, right? I want the show to be smarter than it seems like it is, and given the network that it's on, and some of the, like, hallmarks of CW shows, I don't trust it. But if it was a show that was more competent than, like a Superman and Lois, than these shows usually are, it's possible there's some red herrings here. I would love to look at this and go, well, now, wait a minute, I can see some intentional seams here where you're trying to throw me off the trail, and it's going to turn out that you really do have a Batman in your show after all. Is that possible? I mean, it's possible. So a lot of ifs with this. If that's not what it is, and it almost has to be that. If that's not what it is, the show is really stupid. If it turns out that Batman is not dead, there could be, some of that could be better than it seems like it is, I guess. But anyway, that's the major stuff I want to talk about. Oh, and also with Harvey Dent, I had to keep reminding myself that it was supposed to be Harvey Dent, because he looks and sounds a lot like, I can't remember his name right now, a lot like the guy that plays Gordon in Gotham. And I didn't notice any like twos or duality stuff with him at all. He's not flipping a coin. Like, there's none of that. The only kind of duplicitous thing he does, and I don't totally understand why, is he's very likable initially. He's the DA. It's kind of standard Harvey Dent, except he doesn't seem to have a massive temper or anything yet. And it's funny. I mean, he's a lot like Gordon, where he's real likable at the beginning, and then maybe he'll have a big temper later. I don't know. But I kept waiting for him to say it's a new day. He never does that. And toward the end, so he's advocating for Bruce. He's the only person. Everybody in this city is idiots. Like, they are idiots. They're it's more groupthink than in real life. And like, we have way too much tribalism and groupthink in the world we live in, but Gotham is way worse at it. If one person believes that Batman is a hero for us all, everybody does. If one person believes that Turner Classic Movies must have killed his father, then everybody believes it, except for James Gordon and Stephanie Brown. And James Gordon, look at me. He's not James Gordon. He's I don't know where Gordon is in this, by the way. He is Harvey Dent. But Harvey Dent gets in the car with a woman, and I'm not totally sure who she is, that he works with, who seems to have ulterior motives for things. And she says, and it's funny too, because he's giving an interview on his way to the car, but he's pretty far away, and she responds to something that a person says to him right before he gets to the car that she couldn't possibly have heard. But that's neither here nor there. I just thought that was funny. He gets in the car, and she says, it's going to hurt you. Like, I know you want to run for mayor, and it's going to hurt your campaign for mayor if you take up for Bruce Wayne, and it turns out that he did it. So he takes this to heart, and at the end makes this big speech, and there's this big reveal. He has this announcement on like City Hall steps where he says, I'm putting out an APB, basically. We're gonna go catch the Bruce Wayne's killers, including the Turner. So he's basically publicly, even though he doesn't believe it, and he's been trying to help Turner, and he says at one point, I got you. He says, essentially, I am now publicly accepting that he's a suspect and he probably did it. At one point, he's asked if he'll recuse himself because he is friends with the Waynes. That's all he has to do. Why does he have to publicly go after Bruce Wayne? If it turns out that Bruce is innocent, wouldn't that also hurt his campaign? Like, that seemed like some sloppy writing to me. I didn't really understand that. Okay, I don't know how I've already talked about this for almost an hour. My hour is you guys' 15 minutes. Let me look at some of the comments here. How's everybody doing tonight, by the way? Caps, you read the script? Yeah, there's a lot of that. Matthew Bass, this is just bad Batman fan fiction, and that's kind of the CW at this point, right? By the way, like I had that thought while watching it, though. I was like, these things have really degenerated into just kind of fan films. But maybe part of the problem is that I was, kind of a naive, impressionable kid when I first started watching Smallville. Like, I could see somebody my age, and I know a lot of adults like that show and bought into it too, but I could see a lot of people my age, particularly with some of the later seasons, coming in with that show and going, oh, why are we taking this seriously? This is kind of just fan film material. Robert, I just want to apologize on behalf of everyone for the Smallville streams. I think we finally broke Cap's brain. Yeah, absolutely. Senior Stick, so this is a craptastic pilot. It's so funny that, like, while I'm watching it, I'm surprised it's not as bad as I thought it would be, and as I'm describing it, I'm going, this is not awful, or as awful as I thought it would be, and everybody in the comments is going, boy, this sounds like the worst thing ever, or this sounds really bad. Roboters, you know what would be a great series? Everyone thinks Batman is dead, and Batman is the star operating in the shadows. It's the only way I would watch something like this. Yeah, and again, I'm thinking it's possible that's what's going on, and I would be really impressed with it if it was, but then you've got a pilot that is going to turn off most of the people that are watching it because they're probably not going to pick up on that, and why would you? I'm not sure that's what's going on. So, like, you don't want to make the 18 people that, like of the 18 people watching it, you don't want 14 people to leave. And I'm not using that as an example of smaller numbers. I mean, literally, 18 people probably watched this pilot. You don't want 14 of them to leave. Thomas, I'm loving this show already. Robert, are you going to ask Jarrell any of these questions when you get to heaven? No, I got too many things from Smallville, and I'm more invested in that. Dagon Spear, I can only ask, why not just use the character Duke Thomas instead of random OC in this day and age? Why not? That's free diversity right there. I honestly had, and I don't want to get into this too much, of course, I honestly had the whole free diversity question with other things as well. Yeah, I was surprised not to see Duke Thomas in this. It's also weird how we flipped Harper and her brother, because unless we didn't, I'm not sure yet, but in the comics, you got the same kind of backstory with them where they had a super abusive father and they had to get away from that, and then they became, or at least Harper became, obsessed with helping Batman and trying to fight crime. In this, and in that, her brother is gay, and that's part of the reason that her father goes nuts on him and abuses him real bad. In this, we've made her bisexual, and nothing has been said about his sexuality. And it might be that he's also gay, but I'm not sure why you would make that a reveal later if that is the case. And it just seems kind of weird to flip that. Like, I don't really care because I've never really liked Harper Row that much anyway. I did sort of roll my eyes at that. I'm like, oh, okay, we're doing Snyder stuff, so we gotta have Harper Row. I'm not a big Duke Thomas fan either, but you're absolutely right. It could just be him, especially because it's a kid that, I mean, this kid doesn't know Bruce Wayne as Batman, but Duke Thomas also wasn't a Robin. That whole thing is really stupid, by the way, where it's like, I'm trying something else. You mean being a Robin, but just not calling yourself that. That's the thing you're trying. I was also shocked that we don't have a Black Harvey Dent in this, just because just for this day and age, and especially CW, which really likes to flaunt this kind of thing. And this isn't me saying like, oh yay, the show isn't diverse. I'm not saying that at all. Nor would I say, yay, I have to pretend like the show is good because it has a diverse cast. No, of course not. And I don't like these things to like feel forced and done just for the sake of getting brownie points, and then the writing is crap, and that's all awful. That's just playing politics. That's just milking what's in the culture, all the social stuff that people are on about right now, thinking that you can kind of play chess and get people to follow you because you've got your heart in the right place, but you clearly don't. It has nothing to do with that. But it is, for this day and age, kind of surprising just how not as diverse this show is, when the CW has a history of really milking that. And I would think that at least, like, we did race flip, or I should say race change, Carrie Kelly, but like Harvey Dent, there's precedent for having a black Harvey Dent. And I've been saying in other things lately that I've been kind of wanting a black Harvey Dent because I really like Billy D. Williams, and I always wanted to see him become Two-Face. And this is just an aside. And also just because this guy keeps reminding me of Gordon in Gotham, and I want him to look different so that I'm not constantly thinking that I'm looking at that guy. But I always wanted to see, finally, a black Harvey Dent because the main reason, and I don't know how true this is, but the main reason I'd always heard that he wasn't brought back for Batman Forever is because at the time, the makeup artist couldn't figure out how to make that look good on dark skin. And I'm sure you could make that look great now, so I would love to finally see that happen, and it's kind of weird that they didn't do that. But anyway, that was kind of an aside, the only thing I wanted to mention with that. Roboto's also, stop with these takes of Batman killing and being utter terrible Batman. Yeah, I'm sick of that as well. I'm totally with you. Yeah, why do we have to say Batman killed the Joker? Again, it's another thing that might not be true. But you stack all these things on top of each other, and why would you care to come back to find out if it's true or not? Robert Wildcat, the Bat is dead. Bury it. Yeah, I mean, I really probably shouldn't look at any more of this, but I'm too morbidly curious. I probably will watch 1 or 2 more episodes, just because it fell off very quickly with Batwoman, and it'll be interesting to see if it has that same sort of drop-off where the very next episode, oh, wait, no, this is the show I thought this is the one I'm watching. I just want to know. Dagon Spear, I think they just want to play at diversity and talk about it, but not actually do it. Yeah, fair enough. But, I mean, they've certainly had casts with, you know, people of more different persuasions. Goofster, Cullen Rowe is trans in the show. Oh, I didn't even realize that. Does not get a lot of screen time yet. I was not aware of that. Okay, so that would mean that they're doing it with both of them. But then it's weird that doesn't come up, right? That you wouldn't say, yeah, our dad didn't like me because I'm bisexual, and. Which, forgive me, but that has become almost a cliche now, especially with CW. And this is not me saying, like, you can't have bisexual women in shows. It just seems like very often we do this for brownie points, where it's like, well, we've got a woman in a show, and we don't want to give her a male love interest, so we'll say she's bisexual. It just happens with, like, so many people now. And it's kind of... It's kind of goofy. You get to a point where you go, okay, I can see why you're doing that. It's not for any reason other than to try to score points with people. John Ty, I do sometimes like the idea of liking or looking at something that no one else is, but sometimes that just makes it a lonely existence with no one to talk to about the material. Yeah, and I was mostly joking when I said that, because I knew not a lot of people would actually pay attention to this, and so I just thought it would be funny to say that. Look at me, I'm so special. I'm actually paying attention to this. Avatar, didn't the guy playing Harvey Dent play Batman in the Year One movie, or am I thinking of someone else? I'm not sure. Harvey Dent is played by Misha Collins, who was in Supernatural. So he's got a history with the CW. I don't see anything about animation with him, but I don't know for sure. Avatar, isn't Harper Row buying the comics as well? Oh, well, if she is, then that's whatever. Again, it's been a long, long time. Maybe so. Then I will disregard that comment if that is the case. AMC, no, that was Ben McKenzie, aka Gotham Gordon. Oh, yeah, but see, that's why you thought that, because he looks like Ben McKenzie, and thanks for that name, because I couldn't remember it right off. Look, I've been at this an hour. That's probably way too long for this kind of thing. But yeah, I'm flipping red, but it was not as much fun to rig over the coals as I thought it might be. Although, as I was just giving you guys the story, I feel like some of you guys were getting that from it, where it's like, really, that's what they did? Oh God. And I imagine if Austin watched this with me, he probably would have had a much stronger reaction. Gamer Sky Ratchet, we almost got Jensen Ackles as Batman for the pilot, according to Collins. The only thing I read about that was that he wanted to get the part, and at the point that was being that he brought that up, everybody assumed that Batman was just written out of the show and not killed. Like, you can tell when he says it, he doesn't know that Batman is going to die in the show. But I also think it's possible that if Batman is not dead, or if they do flashbacks, Ackles could be the one that gets brought into play. Maybe. Unless you looked at something that kind of definitively said, no, he wasn't cast. But clearly no one cares that's here right now. Anyway, Avatar Desto, thanks for watching this so I don't have to. No problem. Okay, I'm going to get going, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review, and I will be back tomorrow night for a Captain Logan show at 7 Central. And a quick plug, by the way, Thursday night after the Captain Logan show, if all goes according to plan, I have a ridiculous amount to read. We're going to be doing the first part of Knight's Quest, which is the second part of Nightfall. So Knight's Quest is broken up into 2 sections, and they're both like 600 pages apiece, which is the size of Nightfall. Nightfall proper being up until, you know, Batman gets his back broken. So you have to do the Crusade first and then the Search. So we're going to be doing Crusade Thursday night after the Captain Logan show, which is a weird time to broadcast, but I'm out of town over the weekend and I couldn't do it Friday, and that was the best time that my co-hosts could come in and do it with us. So Kareem's going to be there and Austin's going to be there. We're all working real hard to get all that read for you, and we're going to do just an overview review like we did with Nightfall. So it won't be as nitty-gritty because it's 600 pages of material, but maybe even a little bit more than that. But pop in and listen to us if you're so inclined. That'll be a late show, but obviously you can also listen to it after the fact. And in the meantime, I was Captain Logan, and thanks so very much. I think I'm liking this a lot less as I'm talking about it, by the way, but I still didn't really like it much in the first place. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again next time. Bye, everybody.